Jazz and beyond.
Where the standards are always hot
and the mood's just right.
On 702
and CapeTalk.
Jazz and beyond. That is the sound of Louis Moholo-Moholo. May his soul rest in peace. There's been so many tributes that have been pouring in from his fans, from fellow musicians, everybody just reflecting on his enormous impact as a friend, as a fellow musician, as a drummer that he's widely regarded as one that was spiritual. He's, the father of free jazz in South Africa. He's also just a god in avant-garde, very experimental. But the one person who also knew him and is Atiyyah Khan, as I was telling you. I'm chatting to her now, journalist and someone who documents the lives and times and of the arts. And I'm just very happy that you can join us and take this moment. Atiyyah, hi, how are you doing?
Hi, Nothemba. Thank you so much. I'm doing okay as can be under these circumstances.
I know.
I'm very, very sad, but thank you for having me.
Some people may not understand your sadness may run deeper than a lot because he was also a very close friend of yours. I know you based in Cape Town. In fact, I even saw one of the tributes which included a video with you in it, sitting and you guys were playing music. Who else was? The other people in the room together and very, very special. I mean, people are talking about his impact. For you, you may not know things that we may also have not known about him. What can you share with us, about Louis Moholo?
So what I can share is that. So firstly, I'm currently in Europe. I'm in Rotterdam in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
And when I got the news, I was alone. I was giving a talk, and it was difficult because I had to continue talking, even though I was kind of breaking down, because I always thought I'd be in South Africa for this. I knew this day would come, just the same way we think of our parents. It's that kind of bond for me, and My interest in Bratebs or Bralois, as we call them, is genuinely as a friendship. It's genuinely as somebody who was double my age, but he became a friend, and we got along. We got along as if there was no age difference, which was really cool. We loved music. We loved listening to music, and my relationship with him develops actually in the last sort of 8-9 years of his life. And it's more in the time as he gets more frail, more weak, more ill. And he just has time, and he's thinking about his life. He's reflecting about his life and this mad life that he had. He had one of the craziest lives. And I think my intention actually, and maybe it will still happen, my intention was to write a book about Bralois. That's what I wanted to do for the longest time. And, God willing, inshallah, it does happen. But the reason being behind that is not just about him. It's about, if you think about South African jazz, it's one of our biggest musics, culturally, here in our heritage and also in our struggle, right? And if you go into any bookstore in South Africa, you are not really going to find a book about this. Like, say you're visiting, or you I don't even know if people read anymore. But the point is, whether they do or not, we need to be able to have places for this knowledge.
Absolutely.
If you think about the fact that people may not be frequenting libraries like before, and a lot of information hasn't been digitized, then we think about the fact that these stories, as these elders pass away, and there might be a couple of articles here and there, but besides that, what else is there? So as a journalist, of course, the articles are important. As we're speaking now, I'm busy collecting information about his life for the tribute for the Mail and Guardian, which I'm writing. It is a bit hard for me because last week I had to do Rashid Lombard's one.
Rashid, yes. I mean, it was sort of double blow, I know.
And they were friends. You know, they were friends. And I even had a meeting once with Rashid about it was, you know, when he was having some health issues at some point. So it's like, for me, I'm also thinking about like this generation that's also kind of passing away now. And and there's still some very amazing elders left with us. But for me, you know, like I started visiting him because I wanted to interview him, to write a book about him. And I had time because I wasn't employed, so I had time. Only to find out he's not, and there's a couple of people like this, he's not someone you just go in and do that. And that wasn't my intention. I just wanted to hang out with him also. But what ended up happening is he would tell me all these stories, but the minute I switched on the recorder or I had the recorder, it would be like weird. So then I'd switch it off and then we just hang out again, you know?
Yeah.
So in the end, we just ended up hanging out a lot and chilling and listening and laughing a lot.
Share with us some of the intriguing and exciting, because clearly, you know, at this age of 85, he has been doing this music business, traveling around the world for more than 60 years. He's got stories to tell.
Sure.
Some probably funny, some sad, some crazy, you know, and which I hope you will put in that book. And I know you didn't press record on the recorder, but I hope your memory is going to serve you well.
Yeah, I mean, this is the exercise of this is what we're faced with, is some of the best documenters in history, like someone like Rashid Lombard, had brilliant memories. Brilliant. When I interviewed him before, I was shocked. I was like, wow, this is incredible. I unfortunately have quite a bad memory, but there are things that I'll always keep with me. And there were so many stories, and I wish I could recall and retell, because, you know, musicians are very great at telling stories. That's one of the things I love.
That's true.
You know, it's always amazing how they just find such a great way to tell a story. But, you know, he would talk about maybe like the first time meeting Miles Davis. He would speak about, you know, possibly having to tour with Ella Fitzgerald and then being blocked. He spoke about, you know, his passports, the issue they had with passports. I mean, it's something artists still face today with visas and stuff. But being in exile, what that was like, and having his passports taken or lost, having his drum kits not arriving when he traveled through countries, then he just didn't have a drum kit. You know, he told a story about how he lost his drum kit in an accident previously. I think he spoke about his mother passing while he wasn't here, you know.
Yeah.
So the thing about Bra Louis was that everybody who encountered him will have a story. I know that there's people who have maybe more in-depth, better, you know, more interesting stories than I do. But I felt that, you know, this thing about not just always as a journalist or as a person needing to take from someone, you know, everybody always wants to take from artists. And the thing about just sitting with an elder, and I haven't had that experience of being able to visit any elder. My grandfather passed away when I was, you know, younger, but he lived he wasn't in South Africa. And the thing is, I never got to have that relationship. So for me, he was my elder, you know, in that sense.
That's beautiful.
And I think, of course, his playing is one of the best in the world, not in South Africa, in the world.
In the world,
you know, and I think
yes.
we have to change that language all the time, because if he was given the opportunities, if colonization by the Dutch, by the British, and apartheid didn't happen, Bra Louis would have been the biggest name in music, one of the biggest. And he is for me. That's how I see him. And I've been writing about music my whole life, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I see the tributes from, musicians from around the world. Some that he's played with, some he hasn't even played with, but who just admire and totally just thought he was the most amazing, musician. Tell me about, if he talked about what he still dreamt of, especially of maybe the state of music or or even the country, if you know.
He, I remember once we were sitting with, it was sort of some years before. We were sitting with Reza Kota, guitarist, and he was already that time, I think, bedridden. And he was imagining playing a gig with this massive orchestra and having like 2 drummers, a whole, like just well, not an orchestra, like a massive band, but having arrangements that you just don't see, like no idea. Like he was talking about just a really big ensemble and the possibilities of that happening, and just like not letting any kind of thing limit him. And this is at a time when he couldn't play anymore, he was bedridden for a long time.
Yeah.
But he would still dream about music. He unfortunately he was incredibly close to his wife Ma Mpumi, who passed away during COVID, and she was like, she knew, she was like his manager to me, she basically was, all of the. So I think for a very long time he was missing her quite a bit. And I think in some ways, as much as I'm devastated, I think, I'm just so thankful that he can be reunited with her right now, because I know that he missed her so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, there were a lot of things. There were many times I tried to get him out. I wanted to take him to the sea. I wanted to take him to just hang out, but we didn't make it there. But he was he wanted to go and check out music. He was very keen to go, but it wasn't easy for him to move around. But he was always keen. Like he actually, I think the reason we all got along with him, despite the age, is because we loved geeking out. Like really geeking out on music and on sound and listening. And we had this experience of listening. And he would play the coolest albums. He was very fond of listening to Abbey Lincoln quite a lot. Everybody who went to visit him will tell you, whether it's Brafea or Bra Herbie or Kesavan, they'll all tell you that he loved Abbey Lincoln a lot. And he would sing the songs as they were playing. Yeah.
Beautiful. I mean, his music and his compositions reflected so much, his memory of this country in its pain, in its resistance, and the violence, the havoc at the time. You could hear it in his drums, where he doesn't want to soften the blow, but he wants us to find some tranquility within that chaos, some peace in the restlessness of the country, and the perpetual possible death that is coming all the time. But also just you can hear it in his playing that it's in these waves and there's heaviness. But you find that the peace in it and the calmness. You find, in other words, he wanted us to find the peace in the chaos, kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he was a particular type of artist, because he was an artist. He painted as well. He made his own T-shirts. I've always wanted to get one of his T-shirts. like, Johnny Diani also drew, I think he embodied this idea of what an artist is in the old school way, being completely self-taught, being removed from your family and everything to go into like these cold British European spaces, where life is the opposite of what it is to be African in South Africa, and against tradition and all of these things.
Yeah.
And all of that was channeled into the music. And that's why artists, like he was an influence on artists in the UK. He was an influence on people like Chewbacca and these kinds of guys you hear now. He really influenced the free jazz movement, I would say globally. And the one thing about hanging out with him was every time we'd sit together, he'd pull out a new album that I'd never seen of his before. And I was like, where did you do this? And so I realized, for me, I had to start accepting that I'm never going to be able to encapsulate this man, because his life is unencapsulatable. It's impossible to capture everything he did, because he did so much. But the people who know. I'm not even connected to that many global musicians. I haven't seen that many tributes. I also haven't been online. I've been grieving quite a bit in my own way, and it's been very hard. But at the same time, I'm going to need to be doing all of this work now because of this tribute I have to write. But I think his roots were very deep, and I think that for me, making sure his legacy, but a lot of other artists, a lot, need to be spoken about. And we're losing everybody very quickly, and the world is also going quite mad. So
yeah,
I think it's very important to remember the lessons that Louis was always about freedom in every way.
Yes.
And the people, freedom and the people. He didn't care really in any way about like politics and the ins and outs of all of that. He wanted freedom in every way, and that's what we need to make sure if that's the message we're with, then that's what we have to keep fighting for. Because for me, like, we still have a lot of work to do,
Yeah. That freedom is yet to be achieved.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think it's a beautiful note to end on, and also a way of honoring him with his dream, his wish, his vision of the world and everyone, that of freedom. And of course, I am going to play that Abe Lincoln Through the Years, which was one of his favorites. Atiyyah, as always, my condolences to you, not only for the loss of Bra Louis, also for Rashid Lombard as well. I know you were close to him as well. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Thanks so much.
My pleasure. Thanks to you.